We're here today for the first annual Godzilla and Chris Mowry Gallery Talk and Yard Sale. We're here to hear Chris talk about Godzilla. Both Godzilla and Chris are the gifts that keep on giving. Thank you for coming to the art gallery, and can't wait to hear what you have to show us.
Thank you, Eric. So I'm Chris Mowry. I'm the former writer of Godzilla Was of Earth, a series that we just wrapped up here at IDW. 25 issues, longest running Godzilla series in comics history. Thank you. I'm also kind of served as a creative consultant for the Godzilla titles here, mostly because I'm just a huge fan. I've collected this stuff for years and years, and possibly have acquired a bit of knowledge here and there about it. Our history of Godzilla, or at least IDW's, probably started about 6 years ago or so. Also, I should point out Bobby Curnow, Godzilla editor, creeping in the back there. Always behind the scenes, Bobby. It's like Oz. Started about 6 years ago. We had our first series, Godzilla Kingdom of Monsters, written by Eric Powell and Tracy Marsh. The first issue for that sold, he did this whole foot stomping promotion thing where he sort of like stores, if you order a certain amount of copies of your store would get drawn into like this template with Godzilla's foot smashing it. It turned out to be a huge success until one of Bobby's titles, My Little Pony, came along and outsold that one. So we've done some pretty fun creative stuff with Godzilla. And currently we've got a series going on called Godzilla in Hell. It's a mini series which literally has Godzilla going to hell. Sort of like all the different levels, sort of like Dante's Inferno, sort of look at it. And probably the biggest thing that IDW has done with the license that nobody else has done before is that we have the rights to probably about 98% of Toho's other monsters, Mothra, Rodan, Mechagodzilla, Ghidorah, Gigan.
May I ask?
Yes.
What you're picking up a character now with decades of
60 years.
60 years, so 1951,
4.
54. So, and international. So how does that feel, and how do you make your mark in that place in that creature?
I think the way that we are able to make our mark as a company really has to do with coming up with new things. And because everyone knows the movies, there's only a set amount of movies, probably going to see them. Like, I don't know what I'm talking about. I believe there's close to 30, if not 30 movies right now. But because of that, that's all we have is the movie. So people always wonder, like, oh, what would it be like if Godzilla fought like the Gargantuans, War of the Gargantuans, so Santa and Gyra? Or what would it be like if these monsters fought, or this happened, or this happened? And with the comics, we've been able to do that. And because of that, people are able to sort of like get this, not fantasy, but they're able to sort of experience what they wanted to see. And, we've got great art teams on it, great writing teams, and they continuously are fulfilling those fan wishes. So I believe a mark as far as like the franchise goes. There's like Toho, they love what we do, but the fans, I think, as long as we're pleasing them, that's like probably the mark that I'd always want to try to hit.
What was your era that you were looking to really take monsters from? Personally, was it like Showa or Millennium stuff, or?
Right now it's like whatever is the coolest era. It's like hot in here.
They all have their time.
Yeah. When we were doing Rulers, I grew up watching the Showa movies. They're fun. It's all like sci-fi. It's all tons of monsters. It's just wacky stuff. But I also was I was in the Navy before, lived in Japan in the mid-90s, so I saw a few of the Heisei movies while I was there. So I know that genre. And then here, the Millennium movies were pretty much, they were way more accessible than anything else was growing up, because you just had to wait till it was on TV.
Channel 11, yeah.
Yeah, or bootleg tapes of the, not the Dirt Mall or whatever those at mall rats, but hey, you go to Comic-Con and find out whoever had this.
That was pretty good.
Yeah. And so with Rulers, what I wanted to do was really take the fun of the Showa, the sort of like bombastic sort of like reimaginings of the Heisei, and then the serious tone at times of the Millennium stuff, and just sort of like throw everything together and see what kind of stuck. And I think for the most part, we hit the mark with it.
Yeah, you guys got that really good 50-50 balance of storytelling and action, which he was trying to capture in the movie.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, as a fan, it's a fantastic read.
Oh,
I mean, I honestly remember picking up the first couple IDW cuts on the books, and you're like, all right, here we go. Like, let's see how this goes, and running back to the store, honestly, like getting back on the subway, going back to the mat, and picking up more books.
Oh, wow. Thanks.
So yeah, I mean, honestly, it's fantastic. It's definitely fantastic.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Toho's a tough license to work with, right?
Yes.
How much do you guys have to run past them?
Everything.
Every single after the 90s, you have to run everything past them, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think they sort of, I don't want to speak for them. I think there was a matter of, they were just so excited to have like their, big Hollywood treatment of it, and then it just turned out terribly. Yeah. And because of that, they just were a little gun shy. And actually, we came around at the right time. It's not to say that Dark Horse probably didn't try to get rights to other monsters. I have no idea. I'm sure that's a story that one of Randy Stradley or somebody there could tell. But from what I gather, we were just right place, right time. We were sort of looking into it, like, all right, well, maybe it's time to license these other characters. Maybe it's time to, really try to get back into this.
And I assume they're excited about how much steam you guys have created, how much energy.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it possibly might be part of why they cut short their 10-year pause on making films. They're about to start making films again.
Oh yeah, 2015.
Yeah, because really it was supposed to be a 10-year pause, right? And I think they shortened it.
Yeah, when we originally got the license for comics, we were anticipating that 2012 Warner Brothers movie. But then they pushed it 2 years and coincided with the anniversary and everything. So there was a period of time where we were like, oh, what are we going to do?
You carried the license.
We sort of had all these things up there, and we even thought at one point, like, maybe we shouldn't do anything with it. And then it was like, no, this movie, like the trailer came out at Comic-Con, and people were talking about it. So we renewed, got more monsters.
When you guys go to the shops now, I'm sure you guys see that it's not these are Hollywood Godzilla toys they're selling. They're selling your books.
Yeah.
And they're selling the new, never really before pushed in America, the American boxes before. Mm-hmm. They're pushing the original Toho stuff.
Yeah,
and that's playing characters and heroes and all that stuff.
And what our license has, or what our license contains, is what's called the classic Godzilla license. So there's the Warner Brothers movie, that design, that's everything around that, that's owned by Legendary. This is basically the stuff at IDW.
And you guys pulled Gorilla, and
yeah,
really,
for sure.
That was awesome.
I just wanted to have a fight that was longer than
make it cool.
16 seconds or something. Yeah, we just try to do something with it.
It works. It was really great. It's really great.
Thanks.
When you were doing the expanded characters, what was your process insofar as the selection? Because there's so many.
The original 12 that we picked, it was just sort of like, I bugged Chris Ryle from the day I got here, probably 5 days after I got hired, because I didn't want to get fired right away. Just said, we should go after Godzilla, we should get Godzilla, When we finally did, I was like, oh, well that's cool, but then basically everything that, I say what was wrong with Dark Horse, I don't find anything wrong with what Dark Horse did, I just think it got stale because of this. Not having those other monsters to draw from. So I said, well, you should try to do this. I was like, okay, well, we'll see. And they said, sure. And I was like, oh, crap, okay. And he's like, what should we get, how many? So there was like, I don't know, 12 or something. And those were originally based on, okay, you gotta have the classics, gotta have Mechagodzilla, gotta have King Ghidorah, gotta have Mothra. oh wait, if we did a Mothra spin-off series, gotta have Batra. Maybe Kumonga would be cool, or Moth and a giant spider. Oh, this would be cool. So it just sort of like branched out from there. And then when we renegotiated and renewed the contract, added digital rights, we were sort of like, hey, we're kind of missing all these other characters too. Let's get these ones. And then it turned into like the Jet Jaguars, the Godzillas, the Sand and Gyra, like in more of the really, not obscure, but I guess more cult favorite heroes.
Like the
Or
second
characters, yeah. So it really wasn't a tier as far as like these ones are, definitely had to get the popular ones or the ones that people would know. Rodan was up there, you know, anything that probably an uncle of mine would refer to, I'd be like, okay, good, we gotta get those ones. But then when we renewed, that's when it turned into like, okay, let's get the Kamacuras, let's get this, let's get that.
Can you say sorry?
Yeah, exactly. But even though there's ones that we've left out, and fans have noticed. Sorry. And I kind of screwed up because our president, Greg Goldstein, was like, okay, well, I need to know which ones you're asking for. Okay, well, we need, I said Minya. Minya, you know, goofy son of Godzilla. I thought Minya was like an umbrella term for just a like little Godzilla.
Oh.
But true to form, yeah, they definitely have.
So you don't get Junior, and you don't get,
Yeah, so we have rights, we have rights to Minya. We don't have rights to Godzilla Jr. or Little Godzilla.
Right.
I'm sure it could probably be worked out.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you guys have the option to purchase more? Is it?
I think every time we do something, there's like a contract renewal that goes into it.
Okay.
So we'd have to go and add this. But I mean, there's a lot of.
Is it significant, like price-wise?
That I know of, not really. I think it's up there, but
Yeah.
it's manageable.
Okay, I was just curious, if it was one of those things where you're like, oh, I need to get like 5 more. Whoa, it's like going to the toy store, yeah, it's like, no. You get one.
Yeah, that's I think that's how great it feels with me.
You had mentioned in one of the later columns or something about how you couldn't get King Kong because it's technically universal. But
Yeah.
what about Mecha Kong?
Nah, definitely can't. Anything with like Kong in the name.
Okay.
And I don't know why, we've never tried it. Toho is always, it seems like it's a legal headache for somebody somewhere along the line. It's just better, let sleeping apes lie.
What's the future hold for IDW Godzilla with you and Bobby and Matt and Jeff?
Yeah. Bobby question. To be determined?
Yeah, to be determined. We're doing Godzilla in Hell right now. It's the first issue that's come out. I think the second issue comes out next week or something. After that, we're figuring that out. There's some proposals in. I've talked to Chris about doing more stuff. But it's a big question mark. We're going to be doing more, but what exactly it'll be?
But this isn't the last we've seen clearly.
Definitely.
Here.
Is there another issue already determined for Godzilla? Is it 5? Okay.
So, talk about the process of the art and the writing and the editing, and sort of your perspective on what needs to go into making it successful.
Oh, very, very good. Very good question, actually. And, so is everybody kind of familiar with how comics work? Yeah, okay. So with us, yeah, somewhat, right. With us, what we will do is we'll get, like as Bobby mentioned before, he has some pitches in, he's reviewing. So we'll get a pitch. If that looks good and it gets approved, that will then get sent to Toho. And all a pitch really is, it can be a paragraph, a detailed paragraph that just hits all the points it needs to hit. It can be 3 paragraphs, it can be usually no longer than a page, because editors have other stuff to read besides people's, you should do this. That will then go to Toho for sort of like a generalized, okay, yeah, we can do that. Then everything gets broken down into, like, here's sort of like outlines for the overall story, outlines per issue. Those usually get sent along as well, if they request those. But I'd say probably most of the time those do get sent along just to catch anything that might get flagged at the scripting stage, which is when you actually write the book. From there, then what I've done is just taken the outlines, sort of like break everything down, and then take those chunks and then put those into a 20-page script. and the artist then takes that. Script actually gets sent off for approval as well. Artist starts drawing off the script, colorist works off the art. Everything at every stage gets basically sent to Toho for approval or rejection, and we've had things rejected before. We've had to sort of explain things before. There was it's a classic one I'm trying to remember that we had to explain. I got Mecha Ghidorah, I guess. So Ghidorah, the three-headed guy, three-headed monster. There's Mecha Ghidorah, there's a mechanical mech. However, in the film that he loses his head, it's the same monster, just updated, that kind of thing. But our problem was we have two different monsters, and per the license, it's sort of like these can't be the same two monsters, and we can't reference movies. So there was a lot of work around with that. The Toho's actually, for as much as some of the fans give them grief for being overly strict, they actually are very accommodating. It's just sort of like, if there's a problem, they'll let you know, but they're totally open to hearing how you want to fix it.
What are some of the other sort of like art decisions that like you have to change or anything like that like Toho didn't approve of, or like, or even just editorial of like, oh, that page layout doesn't really work, or that panel feels out of place, or something in that measure?
I think one of the major ones that was kind of disappointing, but I get it. We can't kill any monsters in per our license. That's why in the Rulers series, towards the end, we introduced this new species called the trilopods, which basically there's two forms. One form like harvests DNA from a monster, injects it into this like other form of the trilopod. They both merge into a hybridized, mutated version of that monster. So we would have a mutated version of Rodan that we could kill Rodan if we really had to, or felt like we needed to. So it sort of was a workaround with that. But at the end, the last issue, I really wanted to kill Godzilla. Just sort of have him just go out like this blaze of glory kind of thing. And I remember there's a panel where the monsters are all sort of like, I mean, he doesn't really die. He was going to be dead, and then the last panel was like, oh, just like the movies, like, hey, your eye opens or whatever. But the monsters were kind of like just pushing him out to, you ever see Batman Returns? Yeah. Where the penguins are pushing the penguins. So the monsters are kind of like doing that with Godzilla, and it's just this really sort of like, they're all kind of like super bummed. But everything's at peace now and stuff, and they changed it to, since the monsters can be dead, and it was sort of like, I guess, too much emotion or anything with the monsters doing that. It's just sort of, it got changed from them doing that to they're just looking at Godzilla's wake as he's swimming past them. And I kind of felt like we lost a little bit with that. But there's been other things in some of the other series, just like subtle things.
Something that's interesting is we can't visually depict Godzilla doing something that an actor in a suit can't do.
Yeah.
So just in the 5th issue of Godzilla in Hell, Godzilla's supposed to go like this, while demons envelop him, and that's not in his range of motion. So we kind of just have him going like this now. And so that's something that each artist, each new artist comes in kind of has to, because you want Godzilla to do all sorts of awesome, you can do anything in a comic book page, you want him to do all sorts of cool stuff, but there is a sort of limitation, and we always were like, well, why is it? But now it kind of makes it feel a little bit more like it is the real Godzilla, because it is what only you can do on film, so.
Yeah.
Authenticity.
Yeah, especially because if you look at some of the manga, like, it's weird seeing some of our rules that we have to follow compared to just anything goes, like the manga overseas. So, yeah, hearing that's funny because there's a couple different volumes of manga that I have where there's one where it's like a whole fantasy thing where he's like a Ronin basically. He's got like armor and he carries a sword and he's hugging some girl and he's fighting all the other monsters. There's other ones where a really funny one is actually, I'm trying to remember the backstory to it, but it's sort of like the two suit actors. There's I guess it was based on a real incident, but they got in a fight. Something happened during filming, where it was like, oh, you missed your cue or whatever, and I got hurt or something. So it was sort of like someone's interpretation of what if these guys just actually just were fighting in those suits, and it's sort of like they're in each of their heads, they're like in their costumes and they're slugging it out. Yeah, there's some funny stuff. Another one was like city gets attacked by plush versions of like all the monsters. Yeah, but we gotta be people in suits. Yeah. So.
As a writer, what was your greatest regret about the run and your greatest triumph?
Greatest triumph, I think, is, I'll answer that one first because that one's easier. Probably just hearing feedback on characters like Jet Jaguar or Zilla. People like characters that like people either thought were cool, but now are like, oh man, you like really made that guy cool. Or Zilla, like, you know, he took like a useless monster and now it's pretty cool. You know, it's just I guess just like giving some new life to some things that, you know, people just
Reanimated.
yeah, a little bit, yeah. Well, I can't really go too far. Yes, I think that's probably, because seeing Jet Jaguar and then all of a sudden seeing the Konami game that came out with like them making a huge deal about Jet Jaguar in it, I was like, wait, come on, you can't do that.
I remember hearing quite often about the excitement over Jet Jaguar, and then once that happened, it'd be even louder excitement over it. So.
And plus, I mean, that's actually a good example of explaining to Toho like how something could work. So there's a monster named Orga who was in the Godzilla 2000 movie. He's basically kind of like Wolverine in a way, where he's got that regenerative ability. You know, he can't be destroyed. So we introduced Jet Jaguar as human size by flying into his mouth and then growing to monster size inside of him, and therefore just exploding out. And Toho at first was like, I don't know, we can't do that. But then when we talked to him, like, well, this is that monster. He's going to be okay. He's going to heal up. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah. And no complaints. And it worked out. Probably the biggest regret, I think, was lack of like character development. Just having stuff happen, like when the deadline shifted, and then just sort of like losing momentum at times and trying to play catch up. And, you know, putting too much out there that had to be tied up after that. You know, maybe not just focusing a little bit more, like maybe 4 plot lines, not like 7 or so going on.
What about releasing it as a webcomic on the site?
I don't know. I'd be interested in that.
I would be interested in
Yeah, I think that would be a question for like the powers that be that decide all that. That would be. I mean, that's actually when people talk about the future. It's like, yeah, I think definitely doing more series, but there's a lot of other stuff that we do now as a company that we weren't doing back then. Like when we first got the license, it was like, okay, we're doing comics, and then it was sort of we had to renegotiate, is because we had digital rights at that point. We did a big push for digital comics. It wasn't the end-all be-all that a lot of people thought it was going to be. There were still printed books that people bought, and a lot of people still bought digital books. So it's like, okay, we should probably look into that. But now, I mean, if you look around, we do, you know, the little retail corner that we have there. We do art books, we do games, we do like little mini, you know, micro fun pack things that are huge sellers, and those include like little stickers and posters. And I think IDW more so, and I'm not just being biased here, but I think IDW more so than any other licensor or license holder of Godzilla right now is probably doing the most for the license. We're creating original content. We've got, you know, we've been, probably the best feedback I've ever heard about like heartwarming has been that we've carried the torch for Godzilla when nobody else was doing that.
So a lot of the IPs, a lot of these IPs were dead, you know, in comics at least, you know, or going down, and you guys really just kind of revitalized it.
You don't only see these properties come back when there's a movie around, but you know, film activity now, but you guys keep it going.
I mean, in all fairness, we did, I think, go after it because there was a movie coming out. But then it wasn't coming out, and I was like, whoa.
But even still, like during that time period, there was still like sort of like how you just sort of crazed because of Pacific Rim and everything.
Sure.
So like it was again, it goes back to what you were saying. You got the license exactly at the right time when people were sort of getting nostalgic again about like Godzilla and one of the kaiju monsters.
I think that in that lull between that 2 years or whatever that we didn't have anything, I mean, that gave us Half Century War during that time. There's a couple other titles that came out. So it's really been, I'm not going to care about being biased or not. I think we've really been the only people that have done anything creative for the license outside of creating a new movie or something.
It's not biased, it's pride.
Well, thank you. We're very proud of
But
ourselves for that.
And stay true to the history of the franchise.
Treating it with respect.
You know, as opposed to what Marvel did, where they peppered it with their own stuff. You know, because they basically didn't have the other monsters, so they created their own.
But I wish. we
But
had-
also, you know, they inserted their own characters into it, like Dum Dum Dugan and all that. And what IDW did, what Dark Horse did before, was stay true. They didn't try to pepper it with all these extremes. Like IDW could have easily figured out a way to put in, say, Lock and Key or X-Files with Godzilla and done a cross-marketing thing. But I think Godzilla was the only license you guys had that didn't do the cross-pollination.
We can't do cross
Right.
license things with that title. We tried to. We tried to. I think Bobby, was it Infestation 2, the Lovecraft one?
Yeah.
I think the original idea was going to be Godzilla across all the titles. So Turtles, Transformers, everything. But yeah, we couldn't do it. I hate the Transformers Godzilla talk. I really hate that.
Yeah.
I can't stand when people, in a fun way, I can't stand when people bring that. Because everyone's like, okay, well, you guys are going to do Godzilla Transformers. All the Transformers do is turn into things that Godzilla stomps on. That's it. Cars, tanks, a city.
Yeah, but you wrote the movie comics. There's, you know,
Oh,
you have knowledge of how
for
to
Star
work around.
Scream, die like that. Like, done. I'm turning into a jet. Oh crap! I just got blown up. Yeah, it's not gonna be over like
The
that.
closest thing that you're gonna have to a crossover is just Godzilla having this huge bowl of cereal and being filled with all the Decepticons and Autobots.
It'd be him and Unicron.
Eating them
Like, who could eat more?
I just heard Godzilla trip shot.
Turns into a city. That's it. He's like, oh, you turn into another monster. You're gonna turn into a robotic monster. You're gonna turn into a robotic doppelganger of myself. Been there, done that. Or you're gonna turn into a city.
Then they're crushed that.
Dude, yeah, you're done either way.
Well, I got a question for you and Bobby. What's the Toho character that you said you never got to use in the series? Is there one that you really had a soft spot for that you didn't get to?
We've used all of them except for Indiana, haven't we?
Pretty much. There's like some of the ones we couldn't use. There's like Gabara. So Gabara was from. I love the movie. You know, beg to differ. People that hate it, but there's a movie called Godzilla's Revenge. You know,
Yeah.
That was one of the
little
first
boy.
Godzilla movies, so it always holds a
It's got tons of stock footage with its monsters in it. It's like people complaining like if you go to see Star Wars and it's nothing but just a shot of space or something like that, and then every so often there's like something, you know, I don't know, that's a horrible example. I guess people's complaints about the Warner Brothers Godzilla movie that just came out, not enough Godzilla. It's like, how could you say that and then not like a movie that has like a crap ton of Godzilla footage in it? Oh, because he's got a kid and Minion talks and he's goofy. It's like, oh yeah, but it's kind of its charm. You don't know is he making it up? Is it actually really happening? So the Gabara was in there. He's sort of like this big bully monster. We didn't get the rights to him because we can't refer to the movies and we can't create origins for monsters. So it was sort of like, is this monster made up? What's he do? Just don't even worry about it. No one's going to miss him. But sure enough, people missed him.
And you mentioned the Gargantuas that you inserted into it. What about other Toho franchises like Atragon?
I don't know. I mean, everything is treated as a separate license with them, so that would be a separate license. But we have like Manda from Atragon.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. It wasn't Manda and also Destroy All Monsters too.
Yep. Yeah, I think probably the one regret I didn't have. But what they did is they found the footage, but had Manda versus Godzilla like on a bridge or something like that. But we did have Godzilla actually use Manda to smack the battleship with, so that was kind of fun.
Did you ever with some of the Godzilla comics, there's a lot of sort of, especially in Kingdom of the Monsters, there's a lot of sort of references to American culture. Like, did you ever have that sort of miscommunication or like sort of confusion with Toho, with sort of like them sort of hearing all these things, and like, was there ever any miscommunications or sort of like, well, what is this character talking about? I don't really understand it. Or like any sort of like cultural sort of differences that you came in contact with?
I would say not so much in rulers writers, I don't know like what stuff you've ever had to deal with.
There's no basic communication, but usually then you elaborate and it's okay.
Yeah.
So nothing, there's no real.
It's sort of like
source.
explaining that. Most of our things have been like, I guess like making it seem like the monsters were doing something. So if someone's like, oh, Godzilla, like, you know, he must be upset. It's like, oh, well, Godzilla can't express feelings, so it'd be change the dialogue to like, well, I'd be mad if I were Godzilla or something like. Just changing it to, you know, be something like that. I don't think any like real cultural things have ever happened. I was actually surprised they let the line stay in where it was sort of making fun of Zilla in one issue, but you know, that was more because Zilla was sort of swimming outside of Monster Islands. We took the island and made it more, so we had Monster Islands in that series. Was doing that, and then people were like, man, he hasn't stepped on the shore yet. It's like, maybe one day they'll let him, you know. It was sort of like the monsters with the fans, like, maybe one day they'll accept this weird iguana-looking thing.
I have a question. We'll just take a couple more, I think, if that's okay. Sure. You can maybe find some things. But as an artist and writer, do you have more fun writing? Is there the speechless books? I think are fascinating. The history of speechless and wordless books is there, and how you drive the narrative without speech.
I think that, I mean, some of my favorite stories have actually been, you know, the wordless, speechless books. Actually, TJ pointed out that we only, oh, they're over there, yeah. Apparently that's the only place you can see a 5-page turtle story. Because it was never reprinted or something?
It was printed once in an issue of Anything Goes, reprinted after that in the Turtles trade, and since '87 it hasn't seen reprint. We are the only place that you can read that.
And that's like a perfect example of just like visual storytelling and using it to that regard. And it's sort of like Godzilla in Hell.
Yeah, first issue.
First issue's like that. Third issue I think is pretty heavily art driven as opposed to story. There's definitely some stuff in there.
Oh, cool.
Definitely words, but yeah.
Okay.
Whereas the second issue is more of a, you know, it's you're telling a story. For writing wise, it's like, I like it as far as like being able to do whatever, you know, whatever you feel like doing, because you don't really have like a budget or a Hollywood thing. We have the constraints, I guess, of Godzilla being limited to a guy in a suit, so he's not like flying in there doing jump kicks. Although we could say it, we did that in a movie. Like, oh, this guy in a suit did that. He could do it. So I think the writing is definitely a lot more fun. I mean, all day because it's just you sort of set these things up. And it's also you get to see what the artist draws after that. It's like, oh, that's really cool. Like sometimes it wasn't what I was thinking, and sometimes it's better, but everything works out.
Let's take one more.
Do you have like any advice for creators who are trying to sort of get into the comic industry as artists or writers?
I think one of the things I keep hearing more and more being said is like just get something done like on your own, because it's easier than ever to get a book printed, to find artists, to sort of like collaborate. The internet has just opened up tons of different avenues for people to do that, and having something printed, even if it's just make up your own book, you know, make up your own story, work with somebody.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's how it happened. You create something. First you create the character, then you create the book and you print it. And so many artists just start to self-publish or paying it forward. You're not going to get the acclamation you want at first. You've got to get something there. You got to get your ideas and your art down and show people what you can do and get it into a venue where a lot of people can see it. That's what Kevin Eastman did.
So sort of getting that.
Self-publish books. Do what you have to do, and now in this age of digital publishing, it's harder to get seen, but it's much easier to get it out there.
You can market it yourself, you have full control over it, and then if you really do want to go approach a publisher about it, then you have something that you can give them that shows that you've done the steps, you know the process involved, as opposed to just, yeah, I got this idea. You know, like I saw Avengers 2 last week, and I thought it was really cool. I got an idea for a superhero story I want to tell you about.
Yeah, proof of concept is always a good idea to go. Because that's what Kevin did with Turtles, 3,000, granted it was 3,000 copies of proof of concept, but 3,000 people plus really dug the concept, so.
30 years later.
Yeah.
More importantly, like that, a couple of very influential people saw it and
Yeah.
turned it into a merchandising license.
Exactly.
So, you know, it doesn't, you never know what's gonna happen, but it doesn't happen if there's no tangible product. Is there anything you want to end with, conclude, show us?
Thanks everyone for being here, and thanks for watching me like sweat through this.
Are you coming back on Friday night?
Yeah, Friday night I'll be here with actually Kevin Eastman signing, John Barber, Transformers, Chris Ryle, editor-in-chief, writer of Zombies vs. Robots.
Mowry,
Onyx.
Are you coming? Are you coming?
I'll try and cut light.
Okay.
You should sign too then.
Yeah.
So we-
1,000 Wolves, Battle Beasts.
Yeah, we got a whole bunch of artists and
Legends.
editors and writers coming in Friday night, but I want to thank everybody for coming and coming back as soon as you can. And Chris will stick around for a few minutes to sign and chat, and then thanks again for coming.
Cool.